It's Christian, and welcome back. My call sign's K0STH. Steve is here, W7UDI. We're talking about winter field day, operating out in the cold. It is some things. Right now I've got a heater on, but many people like to get out there and do this. They operate. They enjoy doing it. So I invited a friend who I know is always out. He's always in the cold, and cold is relative because to guys like this, maybe it's not so cold. For me, I've got a heater on my feet right now because it's cold in here. Okay. Let me bring our friend up from Wisconsin. You'll recognize this guy from
Michael.
his YouTube channel. He's one of the big
good morning.
kids.
You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you well. How are you, Michael?
All right. This is Michael, KB9VBR, live and direct from Rib Mountain State Park, K1473. I don't know if you caught that little Max Headroom reference there, but
just want to tell you, he's out there doing it. He's a correspondent now, and I've got to pay him. So Steve, I need a little advance for this week because we've got to get Michael some of the
way. There, you can kind of see behind me here. This is a ski hill, an active ski hill. So people are having a lot of fun out here today because it's beautiful. It's 25 degrees.
Nice.
And calm winds. We got a little bit of fog up here. We're about 600 feet above average terrain. I think Rib Mountain is 1,923 feet tall, and mean elevation of the Wausau area, north central Wisconsin, is about 1,200 feet. So that just kind of give you a little bit of a perspective of where I'm at and what the elevation is.
Now, cold is all relative, right? Cold is where you are. You're out in it quite a bit, and in summertime you're activating parks. You like to go portable. Maybe you can answer some of the questions for us who are not as. I'm totally interested. I love portable operations. When the cold comes, sometimes in October we do our fallout and kind of pack it up. Mm-hmm. But I'm starting to get to that point where I'd like to do this winter field day and do like what you're doing. I believe you're out there kind of scouting. You guys are figuring out your situation for this year's winter field day if you're going to participate. What are some of the things that you think about between summertime portable operations and what you do in the wintertime? And maybe specifically, of course, we know you'd add layers and that kind of thing, but how about your equipment? How does that react differently?
One of the things to really consider when you're working in a cold weather environment is, number one is going to be battery life, because batteries are always affected by cold weather. So, be aware that a battery that's going to run fine at 75, 80 degrees will have reduced capacity when you get below the freezing point. So that's with all battery chemistries. Some will deal differently with the temperature, and may have more capacity than others. But that's one thing to consider. And then the next thing to consider is if you're going to be operating in a cold weather environment, is to let your equipment acclimate to the cold weather environment. Going from warm to cold is not so bad. But bringing something that's cold into a warm spot, what's instantly going to happen is all of the moisture is going to condense on it, and turning on that equipment too soon, when you bring it from a cold environment into a warm space, you could run a risk of some damage. So, let your equipment sort of acclimate from the cold into the warm if you're kind of going in that direction. Going from the warm to cold is not so much of a problem because you're not going to have that condensation, but going the other way. And one of the things you can do is maybe leave it in a plastic bag until it warms up to keep the dew from collecting inside of it, or keep it in its case or whatnot. But just be aware of that those temperature variations that they're gonna cause an issue.
Do you pack differently between, say, summer activations or fall activations compared to what are your other considerations for packing what you need? Because you don't just play around locally. You'll take off and go an hour more out of your way, or up north even more. So is your packing change at all?
It's, my choice of equipment's going to change. I'm still probably going to use the same transceiver as I usually do, but I'll think about antennas and how I want to deploy the antennas. Like for today, after we get done chatting, I'm going to go on the air and do a little bit of parks on the air, but I don't want to spend a lot of time outdoors setting up the equipment. Number one is, your hands will get cold. So, I'm not going to string the big dipole antenna up or anything like that. So what I decided to do for this particular activation is I'm down to the car. I've got one of these ham sticks set up just on a magnet mount. And that antenna, it goes up quick. It's already pre-tuned for the band. They're single band antennas, but you can put them, you can put them up quick. You can take them down quick, and you don't have to spend a whole lot of time, inside the vehicle or inside the, whatever kind of what you're doing to kind of stay warm and out of the elements.
I'm gonna turn it over to Steve, see if he has any questions for you out there in a second. But let me ask you. There's snow clearly behind you. It's gorgeous where you are. It's so beautiful.
This is nice, yeah.
And see, it's nice. To some, this may make them nervous. What makes you nervous and may change your mind for not activating?
It's the weather, and I think it's when my kids were younger and they were in Boy Scouts, we'd always say that there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. So, if you're properly prepared for the elements, and of course, I've got on a lot of layers here, and I can zip and unzip to keep myself, keep your body temperature sort of regulated. But, I think if it's too cold out, it's you got to ask yourself, do you really want to be out here, in the cold and whatnot. If you're operating indoors and you only need to be outside long enough to get the antenna up, hey, it's then 10 below weather doesn't really bother me a whole lot. If I'm outdoors all day, say like, our amateur radio club usually assists with a Nordic ski event every winter, and you'll be outside for 8 hours, 6-8 hours. Along the course, and then you really gotta, you gotta be sort of prepared, mentally prepared and physically, so that you can stay out there for the long haul.
Steve, you have any questions for Michael?
Yeah, I do. You brought up batteries and stuff. So based on your experience, what batteries have you found that seems to work the best in the cold environment, whether it's a lead acid battery sealed or the lipos, nickel cat? What have you come across? What works the best for you in your environment there?
Yes, historically, I found that the lithium batteries usually perform pretty well. Lead acid batteries, not so much. As they tend to lose capacity pretty quick as things kind of get cold. With the little handheld radios, what I've done to extend the battery life in cold weather is to just take one of those hand warmers and rubber band it to the back of your radio, and that keeps your battery really toasty warm, and it'll run all day. And I've done that, for years with NiCads and nickel metal hydride and lithium batteries. So, but I think the lithium chemistries are pretty good, and they seem to hold a charge decently in the cold weather. The only downside with the lithium battery is that when it gets below 32 degrees, is you can't charge it. So they got to be brought back up to room temperature to recharge the battery.
Right. So, and then the condensation that you brought up as far as going from the cold into the warm. Oh yeah, I deal with that all the time at work and stuff. And there's times I pulled equipment out of my work truck and go into a site and take it out like a laptop, open it up, and poof, there it is. It's all condensated. It's like, I think I'll have to wait for a while before we fire this off.
Another cup of coffee or something like that.
Yeah. Well, with our newer trucks, we got 12-volt heaters for the back in the back, and then we're now dealing with extended cabs, and we're able to keep more sensitive equipment in the cab and warmed up while we're driving. It's just a little disconcerting when you pull out a $35,000 piece of test equipment and it's all condensating. It's like, oh crap, I don't want to turn it up.
Yeah,
So,
I've had that. Yeah, I've had that happen to me for years with camera equipment too. It's
and that's a great point. That you brought up. So, but yeah, the batteries is a big thing. Have you tried any of the energy batteries? They're not lipo. They're some other
lithium ion.
Are they lithium ion? Their batteries?
Yeah, the bioenals are all lithium iron phosphate.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I thought they were something else, but that's a great point. So that's would be a great battery to use in a winter field day or outdoor portable operation versus your lead acid batteries. I mean, it's just, I know they don't do well in the cold.
No, they don't. They'll tank, and you probably noticed that if you're in a cold weather environment and it's below 0 Fahrenheit and you try to start your car, it's those.
That's a really good point. Connecting those two things.
You got enough amperage to crank it a few times and you hope it turns over. So.
And then you got all your neighbors that are hooking up those battery chargers that they go down to like Harbor Freight and get for $20 and talk about tearing up the HF bands.
Oh yeah.
Because I did that too, and it was like, holy smokes, I found that one out the hard way.
And Michael, would you? Of course, we're in pandemic time, and I think that you are sort of on the fence with operating with your sidekick Joe there. You guys usually go up, and I've teased about coming up there. I really do want to come up there. I want to. You're not super far from where Chris Farley, one of my comic heroes, is buried. And I wanted to come up there and do a special event. And we've talked about getting together maybe for Winter Field Day. And you guys are no joke. You get out there, and I remember seeing one of your videos. If you haven't checked out Michael's channel, do that. KB9 VBR antennas. He's one of the big kids in the landscape, I guess. But you guys, I see Joe out there. I mean, every exhale is full of, you just see it, no hat on. I mean, I'm like, whoa, these guys are hardcore.
Yeah.
So you guys are deciding if you're going to do it as a team again this year. Where do you stand on that? Are you still trying to put that together?
I think, we're kind of taking it. We'll have to make that decision as we get closer to the event, because we do work. He's got a friend that's got a cabin that's off grid, and we typically work out of that cabin, so it's we can heat it up. It stays nice and cozy in there. But the problem is that the two of us are now indoors, and we have to decide as we get closer to the date. Well, are we have we been exposed to someone else? Are we safe? Is it safe for us to stay, be together in a closed environment for 24 hours without running the risk of exposing the rest of our families? So it's we're going to have to make that decision as we get real close to the date. Otherwise we may have to do something that's a little bit more socially distanced, I guess.
And I know that you didn't come here for just this today. I know you want to get on the air and activate, and it's cold where you are, like you said. What are your goals for Field Day? Even if you're operating alone, you may have a different set of goals when you're with Joe. Maybe you guys are just there to have a good time and make some contacts, however. But do you set goals for yourself in terms of context? Do you look at, I'll try some things on this antenna, maybe I'll work on this one? Or is it just like two fellas getting together and let's just try the IPA? Is that what they're called, Steve? Want some good beer advice? I've gone to these guys for beer advice.
Let's have some IPAs, spread it around, and some stouts, and
just have numbers. What are your goals?
Goals, field day, be it the summertime field day or the winter event, is I am not a contester, so I'm not looking to rack up the points. And historically, I've participated in field day, since I was first licensed, with our local club, and we've always been more of a casual operating kind of group. And we'll go out and set up the kitchen sink, everything in the kitchen sink, and have fun for 24 hours and tear it all down. So my goals are it's more that casual operating kind of thing. It's I like to try something new. So if it's a new antenna or if it's a new mode or something of that nature, that's kind of the excitement for me, is to make something different, work in the field. And just by, setting up in a wild environment and having everything work. And when it doesn't work, trying to figure out why it doesn't work in a wild environment is, satisfaction enough for me, and which keeps me coming out every year for these type of events.
It's also good to have a friend who's an electrician, I think.
Yeah.
Right? You have a truck full of wire. He's got to have lots of connectors.
Yeah, he's usually pretty well set on the tools, so that's the good thing. If something does break.
So what are you looking at?
Yeah, baler twine and duct tape.
I'm sorry about that. So what are you looking at operating this year, if for Winter Field Day? What modes and what bands are you going to kind of concentrate on?
Probably, my favorite band has always been 40 meters. So probably 40 and 20 in a day. And as the night wears on, we'll see, what the noise floor looks like. We'll get down to 75. We're kind of creeping out of the sunspot cycle, so we might, if 10 or 15 is open, we'll be up there too. Typically, sideband, my code's atrocious, so I don't know if I'm going to be on CW or not. Probably digital. It's out in the wild. I can do great on digital at home, but every time I go out somewhere, I can never get the dang things to work right. So I'm probably going to be on 40/20 phone for sure.
Well, what kind of issues are you running into, say, with FT8 out in the field not working?
Well, FT8 now, Winter Field Day, FT8's not an allowed mode, but
okay, I didn't realize.
But typically. But because for summer field day, I'll use FT8, and a lot of times I don't know if it's synchronization issues with my computer.
Okay.
It's a lot of times it always seems like the clock is off just enough to cause me problems out there. If everything else works, I've been able to I can get the the 891 to talk to the signal link to talk to the computer, and that seems to be always fine. But typically. With FT8, it seems to be synchronization issues. Other years, we've had, things not work at all. But we'll see. Maybe
little gremlins. Yep.
Yeah. If I feel lucky, I'll probably get PSK running. So
there you go.
Well, let us know where you land. If you want to, you can send me a message. Maybe I'll grab it and we can kind of post you up here while we're on the show. That would be cool. But I'll let you have at it. I know it's cold. I appreciate your time and your flexibility with coming to do it. You're in a beautiful place. Have fun out there, Michael, and everybody who's watching now or subscribes to our channel. Check out Michael's channel, KB9 VBR Antennas. And again, he's one of the big guys. He's been around for a while. He's got a lot of subscribers.
So strap on a man pack and put on some boards on your feet. And
I want to see you go downhill. Reporting live.
Operating on 20.
I prefer the skinny skis. I do a lot of.
There you go.
I've done a lot of cross country in my past, but this downhill stuff scares the dickens out of me.
There you go.
Thank you, Michael. Have a good time out there. Let us know where you are. We'll come and work you.
Will do.
All right, 7-3. That's a good guy there. That's a good guy. Cool. Yeah, man. It's nice of him to stop by. He's, I was like, you want to come on and talk about it? And he was like, oh, I'm going to be doing it. I'm like, I figured you would be. I figured you would do it. We'll just pause here briefly. We're going to pump the brakes, reset, and it's time for Steve and I. We've got a ton of questions to get to, Steve. So give us a few seconds. I want to teach you guys how to use the 100 watts in a wire website to get your ID. Steve and I will come back next. If you're new to the 100 Watts in a Wire community, make sure you visit 100wattsinaWire.com to get your 100 watt ID. Go to the Gathering tab, submit your name, call sign, and email address. In a few days, you'll be sequentially issued an ID. Then you can share it on the Sunday evening HFnet, during operating events, and casual contacts. That's 100wattsinaWire.com for your free 100 watt ID. And roger that. It's Christian along with Steve. My call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. Steve is W7UDI. And talking about winter field day, operating out in the cold, some considerations you need to think about. Hopefully those will help you as you attempt to get out. I kind of feel like the hankering of wanting to get out there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's sort of like what is winning is the fact that it's super cold. My hands don't want to work for me as well out there when it's this cold. But, I kind of miss that portable thing. And this is an opportunity. Winter field day is an opportunity. Every day is an opportunity to get out there and do it. But I think it's good to lay some foundational information there, things to think about from clothes to your batteries. That was a big one. Thank you guys for adding your questions to the queue. And we got a bunch, Steve. I wanted to know, do you want to revisit? We had a couple weeks ago, Randall sent the question
about a little research on that one.
Okay, let's bring this up here. And this is sort of a flashback where, and listen, we may not have all the answers and we may have to go back. But a couple of weeks ago, we did a show featuring Ballons and Onions. It may have even been last week. I don't know. But the question
last week.
Yeah, was it? Yeah, time's slipping away. Randall asked about a wire dipole toroid suggestion. My confusion is the metal makeup. I have read that 31 is best, but others say 41. Some say 43. Cost isn't a concern. What he wants to make sure that he has the right core. What did you find out, Steve?
Well, I found that, the difference between the various makeups or mixes is there's going to be two basic mixes. One's going to have a zinc makeup, zinc, what is it? I got to refer to notes here. It's a nickel zinc, and then the other one is basically a magnesium zinc, and they just it's the makeup of the toroid itself, or so that's where you come in with the mix 31 and 43, 52, and they all have their pluses and minuses. So what I found is 31 is the best. So looking at it has the great permeability, which is like around 1500, but the frequency range is like from 1 to 300 megs, and it's so for a monoband antenna or a 1-to-1 Ballon, that's the guy to go. I mean, it's pretty much, you can use it from 160 meters all the way up to 220, and that's the way to go. The limitation is it needs to be a 1-to-1 Ballon. When you start going into transformation, you need to kind of go into into a different mix. And so like mix 43 is so the 31 is made by, it has manganese, where the 43 has nickel. The permeability is not as great on that, but its frequency range is like from 25 to 300 megs. So it's kind of more higher in the band. And I think that, and then you have 61 and 73 and 75J. And this was the one I was starting to think about with Wes's issue, what we talked about in the meet and greet on his RFI coming off of his inverter and with the power strip. And I'm wondering, because that one has a great range of 150 kilohertz to 10 megs. So it's, so for in Randall's case, I would say go with the 31 core. It's great that you're building one. You're building a Ballon, and but just keep it as a 1-to-1 Ballon, and at least with the 31 mix.
All right. Well, there you go. Thank you very much. We have another friend who asked, Joseph, hey, Christian, do you PODA? It's an acronym for Parks on the Air. If you're new, any inexpensive headset recommendations? I don't use a headset, but I know there's several out there. I think Radio Sport has one that's pretty popular. Mr. Heil at Heil Sounds has a one that I see a lot of contesters using. I don't know. You mentioned inexpensive. Now,
that's
Steve,
all relative.
Those two options are probably not inexpensive. I do Parks on the Air, but not nearly enough. I need to do a little bit more. And we talked a little bit about getting out, doing winter field day. We've got some operating events here at 100 watts and a wire. I really would like to. I've activated the Arch in St. Louis a couple of times. Grant's home there and the Lewis and Clark Trail. We have a few around, and they've even added some state parks. It's finding the time, but I certainly do appreciate it. And Steve and I talk about getting out and operating portable quite a bit, and it's so fun to dream about what we'll do and what we'll put together. And can he do a little bit of something there where he is, and I do it on the same day, and kind of getting out and doing these parks. But sometimes life gets in the way, and it gets a little bit harder to get out there. So the spirit of POTA is in me, the support of the program, and it's also there for worldwide flora and fauna. And, and that's an international type of deal too. And I guess POTA you could consider international too. But when that 2016 event took place through the league, national parks on the air.
That was awesome.
So
that was
exciting.
That was so great.
And to the credit of the people at POTA, they've really picked it up. They've built an infrastructure, and it really works. People love it. I dig it. So yes, and I wish I could do a little bit more. Steve, you want to comment on Parks on the Air?
Oh, it's from 16, that was just fantastic. What a year that was, and the activity that was on the bands. And it was just, when it came to the end of the year, I was like, oh man, can just continue it? But the POTA folks just kept it going. But that first year was awesome, got people out, and that was great. And so then back to the headset, find something that is comfortable that you can wear for hours. And that's the hard part. And it's, and what your environment's going to be. I know you mentioned the Heil headsets, and I started thinking of the Pro 7, which is, an expensive headset, but it's great for, background noise. But, it could get to be a little too much, wearing for, 6 or 8 hours. And that's, David Clark headset style, where it's kind of pushing on your head for the noise cancellation. But
there's a lot of great options out there. I wear these because I've always wore these headsets for radio, and they're light enough. They're not the best. They've got an issue with the cable, not for operating, but to do radio work. And there's other ones that are far better. But to your point, Steve, they're heavy. They sit on my ears. They're not over the ears. They're, after a while, you're like, geez, my neck is feeling. So it's a major consideration. And if we knew your budget, we may be able to focus. I don't wear them like that. I wear a headset like this, maybe when I'm out there, or a different type of headset, but not one with the microphone.
When I operate, I just use, crash, just a pair of headphones like this, and then the microphone. But I got a Pro 6 that has a boom mic on it, and so it just, but after a while, it gets, I found these to be very comfortable, for hours on end. But like a, David Clark or a Pro 7 set, it'd be a little bit, tiring on the neck and the head. So
I like the ones they wear in the helicopters, like the guys, the old ones, and they refurbish them to work like that. But I can imagine after a while, your head and your neck are like,
you got to find something. And then, there's a ton of them on Amazon and out there, outside the amateur market. Then there's interfacing it to your radio and things like that. But, if you can get something from vendors that are kind of geared for our hobby here, then interfacing to your radio is going to be a lot easier. Headsets that's a personal thing, and that's really hard to say. What works for me is not going to work for you.
And you may have hearing differences in hearing and all sorts of different things. So, great question. Thank you for asking. We'd need more testing information and all that sort of thing. There's a lot out there. That's the good thing, is there's
lots
a lot
of choices.
Okay. All right. Matt has a question for us. Aside from access to wider range of frequencies and bragging rights, I'm not seeing a need for little to get an extra license. Thoughts?
True. Yeah. It comes down to where, what do you want to do in the hobby? Where do you want to operate? If you just happen to be, I'm pretty happy operating in the VHF, UHF world and repeaters and playing around with microwaves and stuff. A technician is fine. It's perfect. remember, this is your hobby. It's not mine to tell you what to do. It's do what you want. And having an extra is like, yeah, look at me. The only thing I can say right now is if you want to be in the hobby and you're kind of interested in HF, yeah, get the extra, even though you might not operate. But with the fees coming along, I'd say upgrade to extra when everything is free right now, because sooner or later, every time you're going to upgrade, you got to pay the VE fee, then the FCC. And if you go, so try to get up there, but no, it doesn't matter. It's your hobby. You operate, you get the class that you want and be proud of it, and not worry about what others think. Just because, I have an extra and you have a technician, we're still the same. It's we're both in the hobby.
Yeah. What we want to do is continue to enjoy it. We want to continue to enjoy it. I've met hams that have been a ham for over 40 years plus who have their general quite content. The leader of our local Aries team only has his technician. And I say only because there's 3 levels, and I'm trying to say that's what he enjoys. So, and he's a leader of an emergency communication thing, which really relies on that 2 meter 440. So it really is about what you want to do. And why I got my license is it may be different. Again, this is a very to each their own topic and show for sure. Everybody's included. Do what you like, as long as you're not hurting anything and you're operating within your what is it called? Your license class. For me, it was different. For me, it was different. I was encouraged early on to keep going. And now that you got your general, great, keep going. And I thought, oh boy, I just keep going. And you know what? For me, I've got a slight touch of dyslexia or maybe a stroke of laziness at the time. But, looking at the chart to tell where I could go, and I love HF. I love HF. Looking at this chart to try to figure out where I could go and couldn't go. And I would hear these sexy things happening in the extra portions of the band. And for me, I couldn't go there. Certainly you can listen, but for me, I was like, I want to be able to go there. I want to work Australia and Japan, because sometimes they hang out in this portion and I can't go there, and for me,
exactly.
it was like motivation enough for me to set aside.
That was my motivation too.
Yeah.
It was those DX stations that were down in the extra and they were working split, and it was like, and sometimes they kind of come up into the general portion to where we can work them, but not very often. They stayed down there. So that was my motivation back in the day to become an extra, but it doesn't matter. I don't look at a person just because they have a technician license versus an extra. Now, if you're a technician and operating outside your privileges on HF, then yeah, I might give you a stink eye and stuff like that and not work you, but and encourage you to upgrade. But if you want to stay a general, perfect. Like I said, it's your hobby.
All right, here's another one here. We got time for a couple more questions here, and I see you in the chat there. I'm waving to everybody. I really appreciate you stopping by. It moves so
yeah, he is.
A question from November 7, Zulu United Mike. Is Christian still enamored with the double bazooka? I would sleep with my double bazookas. I would bring them down and bring them into the bed. I don't know.
Your wife might have some.
She would, and that's why they're really not in my bed right now. But man, look up the double bazooka if you're just getting into HF or you're thinking about tinkering with some antennas. MIT experimented with this antenna and they were designing it, and I enjoy it very much. Steve has built one, and the one he built,
a couple,
he still has, and so I don't have the cojones to say, Steve,
I need to build you a couple. I need to build you a 160.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I had one for 160, and it was a market one. And what happened at the time was I was really playing radio in the trees. And I found that center point, where they connect, and those, this is the part here. It's not, let me say it's not like unlike a dipole, but I found that those connections, and Steve can speak to this with some authority because he's built them before, this connection at the centerpiece for me seemed very delicate. And I was out with 160, and you know how much wire that is, and you know how much I love the band. I was trying to get this thing out of the leaves, or stick would get it. And you know what? I ended up killing this thing. I either shorted it out, I'm jerking on too much. It became a thing. And I thought, oh man, I don't know if I should attempt to build, but I know for sure I need to be a little more careful with how I'm playing with these ends. Now, that was just my experience. And at the time, I hadn't cleared that much. I've cleared a little bit of space for myself now. Some trees have fallen. I've given more space to things. When you built that antenna, Steve, did you find that was a sensitive area, or was I just really being too rough?
No, that is a sensitive area. And so the two that I built, that are still in service, and I built them, what was it? Probably 15, probably 2015 when I built those. And they're still in service. They're up in the air. They've been bulletproof. I've brought them down a few times, and they're still holding up. And it's the design of the double bazooka, that center element. Oh, God, sorry about that. That design of that center piece is where it's difficult. And I've tried different styles and come up, but this is a first one that I built, and it was just kind of like cobbled it together. Seems to work out pretty good. I've done some other ones that I've given away, and I haven't heard back whether they're still in service or ever used. I built some for a couple other people. Another one that I've done is I've used a messenger rope. So basically, I used some Mastrant line, and then I just tie wrapped the whole assembly to that, and that took the weight. And I used kind of like a little junction box for the centerpiece, and mounted a SO239 connector there, and did all the connections inside that, and kind of sealed it up. But basically the Mastrant rope took the brunt, and I used it as like a messenger line. And there's been a couple of different ways of doing it, and but this one using an antenna kit from DX Engineering, it's just kind of a T, and then doing my connections, sealing it up, and then actually tie wrapping it to it and securing it to there seems to work, and been holding out all along. And so it's I just got to take it to another level, but mine are in inverted V, supported at the center. But the next step is to put it into a flat top and see how well that will work. And I got to get a couple put together, send it to you, because you can do it in the flat top, and let's see how it lasts over the time frame. But it's not that hard of an antenna to build, but it takes a little bit of doing. And but I love them. I think they're great. But there's others that they poo-poo the double bazooka.
It's a coaxial dipole. A double bazooka, I feel, is a marketing term that was used for it, which is totally fine. It is some of its attributes. It's quiet. It's a quiet. If you want louder, then maybe you want a standard dipole. You're going to maybe hear more. I don't know if you'll hear more if I'm saying that right, but the amplitude over what you're receiving, it's a little loud on a dipole, and I find the double bazookas to be a bit, softer, quieter for me where I am. But yes, enamored very much, and they hold up. Steve's got one 5 years on now, and I admire that fact. Yeah, you got two going up there. I would look into it if you're curious, and I think I might try a build at some point, but the sensitivity factor kind of.
So if you're going to buy one commercially, IAC makes a really good one. Radio Waves makes a good double bazooka, and there's a few other manufacturers out there, but the IAC is a little on the higher on the cost side, but they're highly recommended. I haven't tried one of them, but so
I have a Radio Waves, and it's held up, and I've got a few for different bands, 20, 40, and 80 meters. Love them. I love them. And Steve makes a pretty good one too. So maybe we'll have to do something on that. We'll have to do something on that in the future. Well, thank you there for the question. We appreciate that. We're getting close to the wrap-up time. And just a couple of things, little housekeeping things. Thank you to everyone who came in today and all your conversation in the chat. I really enjoy reading them and interacting with you. It's a different ball game to be able to communicate with you in real time. You're always welcome to join the pre-show meet and greets, which happens before this program. We get together and it's super laid back. This show, it has a structure. We got a guy who's serving as a correspondent out there in the snow and 23-degree temperatures. We got to get to him. As much as I want to say hello to Rosa, and Marty, and everybody else who's hanging out, Edwin, and I see all you guys appreciate it. Thank you for your questions. They've been coming in, and we're compiling them, and we get to as many as we can. Some programming notes on Wednesday, 7 o'clock Central Time. I've got loosely scheduled a gathering of the willing. This Wednesday, we had the incident in the Capitol, and I pulled the plug on that one, and that was so I could be around and available for my kids who are young, or 10 and 6. I have a lot of questions, and it's really hard to explain that and have these conversations as adults, but to talk to someone who's 10 and 6 and wants to know why things are the way they are, I felt it was best to be with my children on Wednesday, so I put that off. But we'll do that again on Wednesday when better days. Hopefully, better days are coming. That's what my Polish grandmother would say. Tomorrow night we have a live stream of the play-by-play, which is really fun. Steve will get on the air along with Ian, and they will be net control operators. And I've been taking calls too, sometime in the middle, having a great time. We're streaming it out. Interesting, the propagation. We're hearing propagation reports about sunspots and things changing. And 40's been in the crapper here in recent times. I mean, I'm trying to say I love 40 meters, but I'm sitting on 20 right now because 40's been like a little, persnickety. And, I hear things Steve might not hear. Steve's hearing things. I may not hear Ian at all on the East Coast. So it's an interesting round. And last week, and all these go on the YouTube channel. If you're new here, by all means, go subscribe if you like it. Poke around the playlist. Last week,
that was
Steve
nuts.
Turned us around and showed us his pan adapter, and it was dead, flatlined. And I heard somebody call, I think it was, and I put out a call, and a couple people came back to me. Steve couldn't hear any of it. And I can always tell Steve, like, propagation is going south when Steve's not 10 over coming into Missouri. I can almost always hear Steve, and it's usually both ways that way. Ian, sometimes on the East Coast, I don't hear him. He comes up, or Steve may be hearing him. He goes right over me. I'm not hearing it. Last week, Steve's signal started to drop, and it went below a 5.9, and I'm like, this could be one of those fast nets. This game's going to end here soon.
And I'm watching the band just kind of go.
Holy crap. What we forgot to do? We didn't give away an antenna. I'm all jacked up around here today. I'm all wrong. Sorry, we better take care of that.
We need to get a winter field day antenna picked.
Well, you decided to go with the old-fashioned dipole playing on the radio. That's a single coming out. It'll never come out. I'll never sing that and record that. That's enough that actually just came out. But we do an antenna giveaway every week. We have 4 more weeks of that. This week, we wanted to give away a dipole that's cut for 40 meters. And if you don't need 40 and you want to cut it down to, say, 20 or even 15, wherever you want to go from that point, we're going to be giving you at least a 40-meter dipole.
40 meters worth of wire.
There you go. And so our winner for this week, and now pardon me, I kept y'all holding on a little too long. I should have gave it away at 11 o'clock. I never did end the show either. I never flipped the sides of the record this week, so it's just one big show. But this week's winner is Ed.
Nice. Way to go, Ed.
WP5ORT. He's been around 100 watts and wire for a good long time, but congratulations to Ed. And if you win and you can't use it, I know Ed's been in the game for a long time. Having a dipole in your truck or somewhere with you is never a bad idea. But if you do win something, and I better tell you, put your call signs in the chat now, and I'll hang out a little bit longer here while you put those in. But if you've put your call sign in the chat at any time during this broadcast, say this show, you'll be qualified for next week's drawing. But if you win and you can't use it, give it to somebody else. Give it to somebody who may be able to put it up. Be a steward for the hobby and pass it on. That's what we want to do. Congratulations to you at WB5ORT. We're going to let those call signs populate there. This is one of those giveaways where you have to be here. So it may be in your best interest. We're going to keep giving away stuff as we go. We're going to figure out what it is. I don't know what it'll be. We got 4 more antennas to give away this month.
So what do we have left?
So we have an NFED. We have a flagpole, which we just gave away a little bit ago.
Mm-hmm.
We have a 40-meter sky loop.
Ooh.
Right. That's a sky. Is that what it is? A 40-meter loop.
40-meter loop, yeah.
We have an off-center fed dipole.
Oh. Ooh.
And and the dipole. So since we have the dipole, but those are our options here. So what are you thinking now? What are you thinking we should?
I'm trying to think of something for winter field day, which would be thinking the NFED. That might be a good takeout into the field, and you just string in one long wire and get your counterpoise going and sit in your car and operate. Or
put your call signs in the chat. It's great. You don't have to get out there. It's not. I mean, that's the case. I'm a monoband dipole guy myself, but when you're out there working portable, you want to get as many things as you can sometimes, and it's cold. Good point, Steve.
Well, like Ed pointed out in earlier in the program, it's that you get more multipliers if you operate more bands. So let's get an antenna out there that you can operate on multiple bands, and you're not limited to one band on one antenna. So let's go with the NFED.
Oh, you want to do the NFED? Okay.
Yeah, let's go with an NFED.
Okay, we'll go NFED this time around, and maybe I'll off-center fed down.
Fed next week. The final, yeah.
Call signs in the chat. Be here to win it now. You get your name in there now, and you will be qualified to win. All right, guys. Well, 73. Please join us tomorrow for the play-by-play of the Sunday evening HF Net. Steve will be back at the controls. Also, Ian NV4C. If you're interested in being a net control operator, give us
join us.
Yeah, come
Love to have you.
Really come. We'd like to maybe diversify the bands a little bit. We could. It's fun to pass it around, but let us know if you're interested in that. Steve, thank you so much again, my friend.
Thank you.
For getting up.
You're welcome. And
we'll catch you all again tomorrow. But the big show will be back next Saturday at 10 o'clock. Until then, 73, everybody.
73, all.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsinawire.com.